Welcome back to a special edition of Ed's Not Dead. This is Teacher Tips.
We're back with Teacher Tips.
Mr. Crable, I'm looking at you. You're supposed to say something.
We're back with Teacher Tips.
We're back.
Right. All right. This is a special segment of Ed's Not Dead where we go beyond just issues of policy and talk on educational issues of the day, and we actually get back to the classroom and talk about pedagogy because we're all pedagogues.
Pedagogues.
So this episode's topic is
Mindfulness.
So we have to talk real low and peacefully.
Yes.
I know that the NPR skit on Saturday Night Live was one of your favorites ever, right?
It's so good.
So we have to talk like them.
And one of the reasons we brought it up was, remember we interviewed Elena Aguilar last year about her Onward book. I bought it, and I had a book club on it with some of my colleagues. And the theme for October is, she calls it Be Here Now. And she talks about it in terms of the quote that she uses: learning how to be in the present moment without judging. It can help us to experience acceptance. It helps us to have clear-headedness so that we can make choices in our responses. And I think if you can develop habits of mindfulness for yourself, not only are you taking care of yourself, which is really first and foremost mentally and physically, you're also therefore taking care of the kids who are in your care. And that's where we started with this discussion about teacher tips. Mm-hmm. We want to talk about different ways you might think about implementing it in a school or your classroom.
Yeah. So what is in the modern day classroom, and it could be at any level, elementary, middle, and high school. They're all fairly different organizational environments. How does mindfulness happen in the classroom, and what do teachers do to make it happen? Because it has to be a conscious effort.
Yeah, and it has to be deliberate, and it has to be planned, and not just something that you just randomly do or talk about. And I think it can be. I've seen teachers do straight up meditation,
right?
Which some teachers are comfortable with doing, and some kids are comfortable with doing. Mm-hmm. I think if you do something it sounds silly, but in terms of mindfulness, but allow kids to reflect and allow them to have a structured time to reflect on their learning and what they're doing in the class and how they're doing. I think that says a lot.
To really ignite some of those metacognitive processes.
Yeah. It is a way to measure kids' learning to some extent.
Yeah. Where they think about their learning.
Yeah.
In a deep personal way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think one thing that I just want to throw out there, because I feel it somewhat, where it feels a little new agey.
Yeah. Some Enya in the background.
Right, burning some incense. And I could see many people scoffing at it. But I do think
it's a waste of time, Mr. Crabbe.
Right, because every second
time on task is,
of course,
it's important.
But you do walk into some classrooms, and there's an aura or presence in the classroom of calm, focus, energy. Mm-hmm. And I think that the teacher is incredibly important in establishing that. And I think there's two kinds of mindfulness. There's one that teachers can do in and of themselves. For example, taking something like meditation, where it's really focused on being present in the moment. And although things may be stressful and there may be a lot going on, and you have 30, 35 kids coming into a classroom, coming from all different points, mm-hmm. I think it's important that you approach that from a calm and centered place. And one of the, I've done some meditation, I guess, and for me, what has sort of stuck with me is when you sit and you're quiet and you're reflective, and you take all those thoughts that are kind of coming to you, and they're invading your personal headspace, is you don't have to say, well, I can't have those thoughts. I can't not think anything. Nobody can make their mind totally blank.
Right.
But when they come, you see them, you acknowledge them, and then you let them roll off you, almost like water rolling over a rock in a river.
Right.
And for me, that's always been helpful, that, oh, yep, there's a thought. I'm thinking about it, and it's like, okay, yeah, I do have to do that today.
Yeah.
That's going to get done. But then I say, okay, bring it back to centered.
What about the external forces that hit you from outside, as opposed to those that you self-generate?
In terms of, give me an example.
Teaching is work.
Yes.
It's, let's call it like it is. It's someone's livelihood. It's a job. It's work. People approach it like work. So in the environment plays such a key role. Our internal processes do too, but they're connected to what we experience externally.
Yes.
So, how does mindfulness factor into kind of that external environment?
So I would say it's not in the moment. So it's not like, oh, things are going on and you detach and shut down and say, well, I'm not going to deal with any of this.
Right.
It's more about preemptive and proactive, getting yourself to a good place so that when things do get to there, your starting point is a sort of calmer point, so that you're not already going into a classroom harried and frenzied,
right?
And then things start to go, sideways for whatever reason, and I think you're able to have a better, calmer, more measured response that produces, actual results instead of just like freaking out.
And if you're in frenzy, the kids are going to be frenzied,
right?
And what we used to do Mindfulness Mondays. Project Success.
Just
saying, every Monday, and we would do a form of meditation that I wasn't as familiar with, but I became familiar with. And what I found, it took a while. Like, oftentimes you think people have to close their eyes and do certain things, and kids don't want to do that. Some kids just don't, and they're not comfortable with it for whatever reason. And I've quickly learned that you just allow them to make it for what they want to make it. So if they want to spend that 5 minutes staring at the ceiling, go for it. If you want to put your head down, fine. But it allowed them to at least feel comfortable in the space to appreciate the time.
And so that kind of brings me to the second part. So the first part is you as an educator sort of personally getting yourself to a calm and or centered place. The second one is actually doing it in the classroom. And we got a couple articles here from Edutopia about doing mindfulness activities with students in the classroom. I have never done one. I've never actually seen anybody do one. You do read about it quite a bit, especially when students get in some sort of trouble and, there's like a looming suspension or something like that, is that I've heard and read some about schools that have students do some form of meditation or mindfulness so that they're at least able to get to a point where they can talk about what happened, where they can reflect on those that were affected by their actions, so on and so forth. And
I've seen a great example of that.
Yes.
Combining mindfulness strategies or activities or approaches with restorative or community circles.
Yeah.
So it's a great way if you're doing a circle, and it doesn't have to necessarily be on some harm or injury that's occurred to the community.
Right.
It could be on any topic, but to kind of set the tone of the circle and get people in that headspace, mindfulness is a great way to approach it. I've actually been a part of a teacher teaching how to do that. And I was going to say about, lots of adults don't like to close their eyes and participate in those things either. I always feel a little awkward. I feel like a little awkward when I first do it, but then I'm always totally into it.
Right.
And so
I would like to say, I would like to say that there are things that teachers are probably already doing that might already meet the parameters for promoting mindfulness in your classroom. And I think if you react to a challenging moment in your class or a frenzied class by bringing on mindfulness all of a sudden, I don't know that it'll be as effective, just like routines and rules.
Right.
Reactive, right? But if you bring it on when it's just a normal day and be like, hey, I want to try this. I think it'd be good for our class to experiment with this. I think the messaging is different. And the one example I found on the Edutopia was they tried this strategy. One day, students in my international baccalaureate class arrived with a heavy sense of deep fatigue, which we talked about this, radiating from them. After checking in, I led a mindful moment in which we focused on gratitude, and we shared one compliment about the person beside us. The student's attitude became noticeably more positive.
And one thing I wonder is, as an administrator, if I went into a classroom and the first, let's just say 5 minutes were dedicated to that, would I be open and receptive to it? Or to your point, with so much to do and so much to cover, would I be able to accept that? I don't even know if at the expense of something else. Maybe it promotes a classroom where the 5 minutes that you devote at the beginning makes 45 other minutes that much more productive.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So,
well, as my good friend Dr. Albert M. Bandura always used to say, the
Bandurian triangle.
The classroom environment is not a monolith. We shape the environment. Teachers do every day, and that's what you're getting at. I was just thinking, though, as you were talking about mindfulness and buying in, I was thinking, is it really in the public schools a form of secular prayer? Where, I mean, because whether you read Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now, or you read a lot of things on prayer, there's definitely overlap in that space that it puts you.
Sure.
You stop thinking about outcomes, you stop thinking about controlling things. You're really surrendering to something.
And you're also not requiring students to participate necessarily.
No, you're not.
You could do that with the Pledge of Allegiance as well, where it's...
I thought I would complicate this.
Yeah.
It's rather prayer thing.
No, you may bring up a really good point. I mean, you're giving the kids the option to participate.
Yeah.
It's 5 minutes, and if their exit cards at the end of that lesson that you saw for 5 minutes, them doing mindfulness in the first part of the class, if their exit cards if their data looks great and there's no behavior issues, I don't know that I have an issue.
Yeah. All right.
Well, it is that time of year where things start to get busy.
Yeah.
And in the old days, sometimes in the elementary classroom, instruction would be a little slow in getting going. You'd spend a lot of the month of September getting to know kids and reviewing stuff that probably half, maybe 2/3 of the kids already knew. And the real instructional program began in October.
It's a good month for that.
Right. It's a little late, and it's not like that anymore. Times have changed.
Yeah.
I mean, teachers are under much more pressure to cover and to teach material. But you do start to get into that time of the year where your stress level as a teacher and as a leader goes up. So
during the break, I talked to Mr. Crable about this is not coming from me is not necessarily. Well, I guess it would be surprising. I was talking to a bunch of new teachers just this past week, and every single one of them was clearly at level 11 with how overwhelmed they felt with planning. And they were in a conference for all new teachers. And my advice to them, as someone who tends to be overwhelmed or get myself overwhelmed, is just cut it off. You get your finish for what you need to do for the next day,
right,
and just be okay that you're not going to be planned for 3 days in advance for quite some time.
Yeah, we all live paycheck to paycheck sometimes.
And you just have to come to terms with it.
You can live lesson to lesson.
Right.
It's a fine way to learn.
It's not ideal.
Well, in some ways, I mean, you have a general, you know where it's going, and you know the unit, and maybe you have a unit plan, but today went like this, and yesterday went like that.
Right.
And I mean, it's based on how each day goes is how the next day is going to go and what you're going to do. And, I said to Casey, it's, that's kind of maybe one of the unique things about education is you don't just do the 5 things on your checklist and you're good.
Right.
You got out ahead of it.
Right.
It's unrelenting. Right. It's every single day.
The lesson can always get better.
Right? Yeah, and it's
continuous improvement.
It's like a way overused sports cliche.
Oh, use it then.
Which is, what do you hear a local baseball manager say all the time? All we care about is the next at bat and the next pitch and the next game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, teaching is really the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we long range planning, all of that. Those are all important things to learn how to do over time. But you want to be good in the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would be a little concerned if a teacher said that they're planned for the entire year.
Yeah,
I've heard that
It'd be a
before.
little concerning.
I told you
okay.
I told you when I was an elementary teacher about my third grade friends that were doing their spelling bulletin boards for the next year in June.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. They were just,
ready to go.
Yeah. I mean,
My copies are done for the year.
No, not copies. Dittos.
Dittos.
They were all loaded up and
I got the blue ink on my hands.
and ready to go. Anyway, thanks for joining us for Teacher Tips Mindfulness. Any helpful links for our listeners?
I did a quick Google search.
You gonna push
Yeah,
anything?
we got a couple.
Mindfulness
Mindfulness in high school.
Okay.
Yep.
Is a good one. Applying mindfulness to mundane classroom tasks.
Okay.
There's another one.
Some good ideas.
Both good reads and good
No
ideas.
right or wrong answer.
Yeah, to get you started at least. And I would actually love if anybody has any feedback about having done it. Would love to hear a little bit of the practicality and the things that they've seen.
I've seen it done now quite a bit,
Okay.
but I've never really led it.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Teacher Tips. If you have any ideas, tweet us at edsnotdeadpc. And as always, check out our website, edsnotdead.com.
Yes.
I have trouble with the website. For Casey, Peter, and myself, we'll see you soon. Thanks.